Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream today. Thank you so much for being online here. And we're going to get into the story today. We're going to open with the biggest news, actually, which is this fresh agreement that has been made between John Healey and Ukraine around British troops. So we'll get into all of that. We've got a lot of stories to cover today, not just this. We're going to talk about Turkey with on the border, the troops amassing, very reminiscent of what happened many years ago with Russian troops amassing on the border of Ukraine. We got a lot of stories in the US to cover. There is a lot going on today, so I'm going to get into a multitude of stories. Let's get straight into it then, and thank you to all of the new subscribers. We had another 500 or so yesterday, so welcome to the channel here. So this is out of LBC then. UK troops could be sent to Ukraine for training as Defense Secretary calls on NATO allies to step up. So what are they talking about here? What is John Healey talking about? And why would the UK troops be going there for training? Surely it's always been the Ukrainian troops coming to the UK for training. Well, things are starting to shift. Things are starting to change. And now the discussions are around Western troops going to Ukraine to train in the terrain there, and also additionally to train Ukrainian troops there, but they are focusing on the experience they'll get from being on the ground, the Western troops. So the Defense Secretary John Healey said the UK must make the training a better fit for what the Ukrainians need, as he hinted British troops could be sent to Ukraine. Now, we don't have a timeline yet on this or a date when this would happen, but I expect it to be in the new year. So speaking on a trip, he said that we're at one of the most critical periods of the war, as he urged allies to step up on every front. The Defense Secretary refused to confirm if they would be sent to Ukraine and when, but he said, we'll look wherever we can to respond to what the Ukrainians want. They're the ones who are fighting. Now, this comes amid this harsh truth which Zelensky has just said, which, well, many of us knew for a long time, but he's finally come out and said it, and that he said that he's admitted that Ukraine cannot overpower Russia militarily to beat it back from the territories it has annexed. He said the only way that Crimea and eastern Ukraine could be brought back under Kyiv's control was via diplomacy. And that's interesting because we're going to talk about what Putin has just said as well. So his comments mark a change from his previous stance, in which he declared that Ukraine could reconquer the territory receded in 2014, so that was Crimea, and 2022. Okay, so what was said then, de facto these territories are now controlled by the Russians. We do not have the strength to recover them, he told the Le Parisien, a French newspaper. We can only count on diplomatic pressure from the international community to force Putin to sit down at the negotiating table. Again, I don't even think that is going to work, because look at the pressure that's been put on them already. Everything you can imagine, it hasn't worked. So this was a very long discussion. We won't go through it all, but Putin did his annual talk with the media, and he laid out his conditions for speaking with Zelensky over peace negotiations. So what did he say? He said he's prepared to do this provided that Zelensky is legitimized through a presidential election. And why, you might ask, why is he saying this? Surely he's already legitimized. Well, this is what Putin has said. He said that any future deals between Russia and Ukraine would have to be signed by the legitimate authorities in Kyiv, which currently means the Ukrainian parliament, the Rada, according to the president. He explained that under the Ukrainian constitution, there's no mechanism for extending the presidential term during martial law, and that the Rada has the authority to prolong its term without holding elections during wartime. I did look this up, and it is actually accurate, this statement. He noted that given the president of Ukraine is responsible for appointing the heads of ministries, security services, and other regional and governmental bodies, the fact that Zelensky's term ran out earlier this year effectively means that all of these agency heads are illegitimate, is what is being stated. Nevertheless, Putin stated that Moscow remains open to talks with Kyiv without any preconditions, except that these already been agreed in Istanbul in 2022, which envisage a neutral, non-aligned status for Ukraine, as well as certain conditions on deploying foreign weaponry. We know what this is. This will be nuclear weapons, biolabs, etc., that they don't want in the country. As for who Russia would be willing to negotiate with, Putin stated as long as they're legitimate, he will talk to anyone. So this is what has been said here. And some of the things that did make me smile were Putin said that this conflict has made Russia even stronger. Well, depends how you look at it economically. I would say that's not the case. I would say they've become a lot weaker. You just got to look at the inflation and other metrics. But yes, potentially militarily, they're pumping a lot of money into the military. So they've made them stronger from a military perspective, but not necessarily economically. Although we'll see what happens with BRICS currencies. Now, this is the next big story then. Turkey is massing huge numbers of troops on the Syrian border. So we do expect an invasion, or is the word they're being used, to be imminent. This is the Turkish-backed Syrian National Army, the SNA, announced the start of an operation against the Kurdish-led SDF. So this is in the northern Syrian town. So what we're seeing now then is just a huge amount of fighting and conflict over Syria. We have Israel, Golan Heights region. We now have Turkey moving in. The US is very, very happy, and I've been watching some of the briefings that then they talk. I mean, my words, not theirs, but they're sort of proxies in the region. They actually said that they put in special forces, Russia and British special forces, to train the rebels. It was very well coordinated. They used diplomatic measures as well to get them to stand down. There was so much that went into that offensive. It was actually, whether you like it or not, masterfully created and executed when I was reading through all the documents. I mean, so many things had to align for that to work out, and it just seems as though the stars aligned for that offensive. Whether you like that or not, that is really what took place with Syria. And as I initially thought that must have been a deal done with the Syrian army for them to just stand down and be overwhelmed so quickly. It looks as though that was the case now, according to a lot of documentation. So let's carry on and move over to, well, actually, before we move over, we've just had an announcement that there are a lot more US troops in Syria than we initially thought. So the Biden admin has just admitted, I'm not sure if that's the correct word, conceded that they have got a lot of troops in Syria. So I think Syria is going to be a country where there's going to be a lot going on there for a while yet. Another article there, New York governor announces a temporary ban on flights, and this is over critical infrastructure, and this is due to the drone sightings. We still haven't got clarification on what this is. We're still in the dark over it. I know there's a lot of theories. I tried to give let me come back to the camera. I tried to give a couple of my theories on this the other day. I don't know if you were on that live stream or you popped on. A lot of people said, what's happened? What's going on with the live stream? Sometimes this happens. I don't know if it's a coincidence or if it's deliberate, but my Rumble stream was fine. But my YouTube stream, as soon as I started talking about a couple of theories that I had, all of a sudden the stream crashed, wouldn't work, it wouldn't continue, and I couldn't even close the stream. So it went on from 10 p.m. at night here in Thailand all the way through to 5 a.m. and then it finally, the stream closed. So I don't know. I know I was reading the comments. A lot of people thought it was deliberate, so I wouldn't give my thoughts and stuff on it. Other people thought it was just coincidence. I have no idea, but it has happened 3 or 4 times now. If it happens another time, it's not going to be a coincidence anymore. So let's carry on. Let's get back into this then. So the FAA has placed drone flight restrictions over certain parts of New Jersey. On Thursday, the FAA announced restrictions largely aimed at limiting drone flights over power stations and infrastructure. These are only applied to drones at an altitude of 400 feet, so it won't affect airplanes or helicopters. These announcements come as public officials have repeatedly said there is no threat to safety or national security. Actually, that's a typical CNN article there. That is not correct. You have Biden, Harris, their admin, and a couple of people in their admin saying, brushing it all under the carpet. Nothing to worry about, nothing to see here. Go about your daily lives. Don't even worry about it. But you listen to other people, the governors of different states, you've got city mayors, really in meltdown over this situation. And they're worried. People are worried, people are scared, people are concerned, and the current administration just doesn't want to say what these drones are, what they're doing. That it's just they're treating the public, the people, like their children. I mean, it's what are the words here? Rude, disrespectful, everything else you can say. Moving over then, ironically, over in New York City, they've now deployed the largest military presence in the subways since after 9/11. New York governor has beefed up the number of New York National Guard members patrolling the subway stations. This is absolutely enormous, and this is also coincides with the public concern over these drones in New Jersey, New York airspace, but also the rising threat of this word here, which I can't say or else the video will get a ban. On Wednesday, then, the governor told reporters that 250 additional Guard members will join the already 750. So that's 1,000 National Guard members. Now, this reminds me of walking through Paris. What is it to combat? This word here, and this word here. We can't even say these things on YouTube anymore. It's unbelievable. That plague New York City's subway station. And oh yeah, here's a video I wanted to show you real quick. I don't know if you remember this, but this was back in March time, where there was inspections, so people had to come down and get inspected. I mean, this was a farce. Look at the people. They're just randomly choosing people who so this was supposed to make people feel safer, apparently. I mean, why you need this anyway? I wanted to ask you, drop a comment below. I want to read this statement. I want to know your thoughts on this. So the governor said, I've heard from many people that the presence of the National Guard has made not just a physical, but a psychological difference in how they feel about safety. When people see a person in uniform, they feel more secure. Now, let me ask you this. Do you feel more secure when you see police, military with assault rifles and stuff like that patrolling the streets? I got to admit, I don't. Personally, I don't. When I was in Paris, I didn't like those areas. I wanted to get out of those areas because I think, why are they there? Why are they absolutely kitted up to the max in the first place? It says that there's obviously some sort of a risk or a threat in that area. So I don't even want to be in that area anyway. I mean, let's take, for example, let's take the Isle of Man, for example. When I am there, I never see any police. There's no military anyway, but I never see any police. If I do see police, they're usually just having a coffee or something like that, walking around, right? It's a completely different world. Do I feel safe when I see them? Yeah, I feel safe, but I feel safe anyway. But do you feel safe when you see these military walking around, police walking around? I don't personally, but I'd love to know your thoughts on that. So Yeah, well, there's a lot of theories on this, especially with the 200,000 people who have been coming in, many who may be, actually, I think definitely, because I've read some of the reports, a lot of issues yet to come. But moving over then economically, tariffs all the way. Trump has now said the European Union must buy US oil and gas in trade ultimatum. Now, remember, they were talking really big against Trump before he was elected. Oh, we're not going to do anything. We're gonna show him who's boss. Well, yeah, big U-turn, just like all of the other countries. They're all doing a big U-turn now. $131 billion deficit with between the EU and the US. So that's in the EU's favor. So what's being said then? Here's from the European Commission. The EU and US have deeply integrated economies with overall balanced trade and investment. We are ready to discuss with President-elect Trump how we can further strengthen an already strong relationship, including by discussing our common interest in the energy sector. So they folded. Massive U-turn. What about this one? The EU is committed to phasing out energy imports from Russia and diversifying our sources of supply. Another U-turn. This one's an EU diplomat who did not want to be named due to the sensitivity of the topic. Really, that sensitivity, is it? They don't want their colleagues to say, you folded. They said they were not surprised by Trump's comment and that energy was a good option for buying more US goods. I mean, these statements go on and on and on. Remember the EU, the US. I remember last time I said this, people said that's not true. The US isn't the world's top oil producer; it's Saudi Arabia. Really, do look that up because it accounts for 22% of the global supply. So we're going to see this ramped up as Trump reduces issues in terms of outlets. Over to the UK, the budget has hurt growth, says the Bank of England. Yeah, just exactly what we said. As companies respond to the tax raid, what are they doing? They're raising prices. We said this would happen, and they're slashing jobs. Again, 100% out of 100% there on the forecast. It's obvious, this stuff. You don't need to be an economist to work this out. They're now expecting zero growth in the last 3 months. This is what we are expecting to come out. And we're expecting potentially a recession as a result of this. The Bank of England's governor has said that they couldn't even reduce rates. They had to hold the rate as they are. And they said that future rate cuts are very uncertain. They just don't see it. What are they expecting? Slower growth and higher prices. It is absolutely a toxic environment now coming up. So people thought that the UK was moving from a cost of living crisis to a higher cost of living. People thought that people were moving from this cost of living crisis. And now what we're seeing is a higher cost of living and lower living standards being the norm. So not good at all. And even if we look at the FTSE here, how's it done in the last 5 days? It's down 3%. So not good at all, ladies and gents, if you're in the UK. But let's end on something interesting here. BBC refuses to play the anti-Starmer Christmas song as it hits #1 in the downloads charts. I just watched it and listened to it before this. It was pretty funny, although it's sad at the same time. Up to 4,000 pensioners will die because of the cold UK winter. And what's actually happened? Why is this #1? It's obvious because it's hitting a chord with people. This music is what bridges the gap between people, between different cultures. It's music that does it. And what are the lyrics saying? Starmer promised all these things, he hasn't delivered. He's taken the fuel allowance away from pensioners, so 4,000 pensioners. This is according to the Office of National Statistics, I believe, who came up with this, that 4,000 pensioners this year are likely to die because it's been taken away from them. And then they announce more funding for overseas. Not looking after your own people. But anyway, it is what it is. Thank you so much for your subscriptions, the new people. I really appreciate it. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend. And I'll stream just before Christmas. Take care. God bless.